Hi, I'm Charlene. I have just had my bloods back again. 5 months ago I had them done, and the guy who does them said if I didn't know you I would think that these were the bloods of a healthy person. And that was music to my ears, I can't tell you. And then shortly after that I had the PET scan from the oncology, which confirmed there was no evidence of disease, which again, music to my ears. I'd worked so hard for this. And so now I've just had my bloods taken again, and they're better than last time, so huge relief. Even though it's like four months of being told it's clear, there hasn't been a moment really where I haven't doubted that. You know, it's once you hear those words, you've got cancer, it's really hard to not hear them. It's really hard to not think that every single ache and pain is not cancer. And so getting my bloods back means that my systems are functioning beautifully. They're happy with what I'm doing. And so that means that my body is more hostile to cancer, which is perfect. Couldn't ask for anything better. And so I just wanted to tell you my story, which is 7 years ago I just left my children's father and moved into a new house, and it was Christmas Eve, and I was in the bath and I just felt a lump under the surface of the skin of my right breast. And of course I couldn't do anything on Christmas Eve, and so I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want to upset anyone. I didn't want to ruin anyone's Christmas, and so I kept it to myself. And then I went to see the doctor on the 27th, and she sent me as an emergency case through the it's fast track, isn't it, to the breast care team. And so I went to them, and a series of tests were undertaken, and it took a few weeks, and then eventually I went back thinking I would be fine. So I went on my own, and the surgeon said to me, no, there is a small cancer. And so all my brain heard at the time was small. You know, I function very differently probably to a lot of people. And then she went on to tell me what their treatment plan for me would be, and it was surgery, chemo, radiation, and then tamoxifen for 5 to 10 years. And in my head, all I was thinking was, how am I going to strengthen my immune system? How am I going to make my body hostile to cancer? And there's no word of a lie, that's what was going through my mind. It was like, I'm not going to do these things. Not an absolute definite not, but I need to look at the bigger picture. Why did I get this? How do I get rid of it? How do I make it not come back again? So anyway, long story short, I eventually had a lumpectomy, but during that time I'd asked for a 3-week extension because she wanted me booked in within 3 weeks, and so it was 6 weeks until my actual appointment to have my lumpectomy. And I went away to a meditation retreat because I was just started listening to my wisdom, and it was like, you need to meditate. So I booked on this retreat, went away for 5 days I think, and as I was there I started to notice that the tumour was getting smaller, and it was really doing my head in. And so when I got back I had a scan appointment, so I asked the scan sonographer if she could just take measurements of the tumour. And so she did, and it had got smaller. It was 5 mil in one direction, 1 mil in the other direction. I then asked if I could see my surgeon because I thought, well, I can do this on my own. But my surgeon was really insistent that actually she wants to do this part, I can do the rest on my own if need be. I've got 3 young children, and so I agreed at that point, maybe I'm just trying to bite off more than I can chew. So I spent a lot of time researching everything, and I had radiation, but I didn't have the full course. I had 3 weeks, and I didn't have chemotherapy, and I didn't have tamoxifen. I did take the DIM supplement, and I took various other supplements. And then for 3 years after, all was great. And I was eating well, I was treating my body well, I was meditating, all of that. And then I met someone and he had stage 4 cancer. My lifestyle went a bit wayward. Stress started creeping in. Then there were some issues with the children's dad. And so the stress level just mounted up and up and up until I was at the point where I was in constant fight or flight. So there was no way for me to access the rest and repair. And so my body was floundering. And I didn't realise it. I just couldn't face it at that point in time. And so we're up to 2019 and something felt off. Something felt off. And I couldn't pinpoint what it was. Now, all I remember was every time I do an enema in the bathroom, I'd be thinking, what would it take for me to go to the doctor? Because I had sort of PTSD really from the whole medical system. And so I went to have a shower one morning and I felt a lump again, surface lump. And it was like, shit. I was so worried that I got out of the shower and I emailed my doctor who understood my scenario and put me straight through to the breast clinic rather than having to go through him and then wait and go. So 2 weeks later I went in to see my old surgeon. She's like, well, you know, you didn't do tamoxifen and you didn't have chemotherapy. The thing that really annoyed me was the fact that I'd done the 5 years. And had I done those things, I'd have gone in and got a fist bump. Well done, Charlie. You've made it to 5 years. You know, have a medal. And so immediately I was kind of faced with the judgment, the guilt, the bullying. And it was almost pity that I hadn't listened to them. But again, you know, at that point in time, I felt really vulnerable. I came out of that whole day. I'd gone in for biopsies and I just came out to Mum. And I just said, I think I'm dying, because my doctor had made assumptions that I had metastatic breast cancer based on the scans, but not on the biopsies. So she, at that point in time, she didn't have hard evidence that that was the case. But it's that system made me feel so helpless and so disempowered. And that was really hard for me. So I went away and I took a while to come back to a place of being centered. At the time I was having transformative coaching, which was so helpful because it allowed me to voice this stuff, to be with those feelings and to break the habits of old thought patterns. And so it was really helpful for me to progress forward without everything becoming overwhelming, and that I could actually start listening to my wisdom rather than what people were telling me all the time. And once I'd found that second lump, I went on an immediate juice fast. And my left breast, which had been full of fibroadenomas and was quite swollen a lot of the time, had normalized over 5 days of just juicing and looking after myself. And so I knew that my body really needs this, it really wants this, and this is helpful. So when I went to the surgeon for that first appointment, she couldn't find the breast lump because it wasn't there. All she could find were the lymph nodes under my arms were inflamed. So that's what she based her prognosis on. So this time I took my time. I took my time with everything, knowing that I'm not doing anything to make the cancer get worse. I can just feel out each situation and choose the right path for me, rather than being steered and bullied and guilted because I've got 3 young children. The children knew everything, and we supported each other, and it was, it was really beautiful. I changed my team, so I changed my breast care nurse, I changed my surgeon, I changed my oncologist. And so now I had a team of people who understood where I was coming from, what I needed, and how I was going to go about doing things. And they respected that. And that was a huge difference from the first time, to have that respect, to have that space, and to have that trust. And so initially I started making dietary changes. You know, I went not raw vegan because I'm not that way inclined, and food is a big thing for me. I don't like being hemmed in too much, but I did the best I could. I upped the juicing, upped the vegetable intake, etc. I knew that I was going in the direction of wanting to do off-label, but I didn't want to do care oncology because it was too tenuous for me. There wasn't enough to back it up. And you know, we're dealing with cancer here, and once I'd had my PET scan, we realized it was stage 4. It had gone under the breast into the mammary chain, and so I wasn't going to mess about with it. I totally respect cancer, and so I wasn't willing to play games with it, but equally I needed to take my time, and so I did. And I think, you know, there was probably some element of improvement with what I was doing, but my big wake-up call came in November when I did my bloods. I had dry blood analysis, which a friend of mine recommended, and it showed me my blood, because when I got this diagnosis, it was like, maybe it really is just bad luck, because I've been doing everything right. It was just that period of 2 years where I was stressed. But actually, when I saw my bloods, there is no luck about it. Your body's unhealthy. You know, my body was desperately unhealthy, and I didn't know it because I felt okay. Whereas blood is supposed to be rich and red and dense, mine was like little, it was just so insipid, it was unreal. It was like orangey floaty bits, and there were lots of gaps in between with the oxidative stress. And so it was like, okay, so food isn't cutting the mustard here. I really need to get onto some kind of off-label. And so then, whatever it was, I remembered Dr. Dana Flavin. And so I got in contact with her, and I had my consult. And she was just like a breath of fresh air. You know, we're going to get you well. You're going to be well. Everything's fine. Just, you know, do the work for as well as you can for a good few months, and let's see what happens. But everything she explained to me on that call was scientifically backed. There was it felt like there was no room for error, that she had covered all the bases and more, just to make sure. And so Mark, who I got my blood done with, had already set me up on like a supplement regimen in order to start improving my bloods. And then Dana's was almost like that, but on steroids. It was because she is a pharmacologist, toxicologist, biochemist, all of these things. She knew what would go straight to the problem. And so the next time I had my bloods done with Mark was about 6 weeks after doing Dana's protocol, and there was such a massive improvement. So I knew that what I was doing was really helping me. My body was enjoying it. I didn't mind it. There's a lot of supplements, you know, it costs a lot of money. I had to fundraise, but my kids were the most important thing in my life at that point. Still are, but I've found other ways of wanting to, you know, progress forward in the world. And so it was a real bind to commit to that, but certainly no more of a bind than it would have been to commit to chemotherapy or any of the medical procedures. And so I just saw it as everything that I was taking was giving me health. And I was a friend of mine called me tenacious. Now, I never realized that I was that person. I didn't realize until I was faced with death and leaving my kids how strong I could be, and how single-minded and determined of what I would do to get well. And so for me, healing cancer is not just about, there's not a single silver bullet. It's about being willing to do all of the work, all of the hard work. And it is hard work. It's soul searching. It's dedicating your life to coffee enemas, to juicing, to souping, to taking 150 supplements a day, to funding all of that. It's not easy. There's nothing easy about what I was doing. And so I felt like I was giving it everything I had because it had to work. There was no plan B. It was, this has to work for me because I'm not going to leave my kids. I refuse to do that. And so during the last lockdown, I also started doing the transformative coaching course, which was, for me, that was my why to live. Because my kids are going to grow up soon and then they're going to leave home, and I need to have something that I really treasure and that I want, you know, that enhances my life, and the coaching is what does it. And I really want to help people in my situation to get their head around how difficult you think it might be. It's actually really liberating. It's really liberating to have this opportunity to see your life from all perspectives, to give yourself the chance to have a new life, the life that your soul is calling out for, that your heart needs. Because when you get something like cancer, it's a wake-up call, and often people heed that call. But for me, I needed to heed it from every single direction. I really left no stone unturned, and I'm going to continue that because it's so enriching for life. So whilst I was on this journey, my kids were seeing what I was doing, and you know, we were like a little support network, and it was great. And then my brother died, and it was awful, and my lymphatic system almost became stagnant at the time. I thought, oh God, no, I'm definitely dying. You know, all these feelings, all these fears would come up around death. And so I was dealing with the grief, but also with using it as an opportunity for these feelings to arise and for me to lose old habit patterns surrounding these sensations in my body, this fear, this anxiety. And again, it was hard, but it was enriching. And so when I did my bloods again, I looked at them and was like, I can't send them. And so I upped my game again. I went hard on the juicing, the souping, everything became really honed in and focused again. And then in the September, I did my bloods again and sent them off to Mark. And I sent the ones actually from when Colin died as well. I said, Mark, can you just look at both of them for me? Because I expected this massive improvement. Like Colin's, I imagine that they'd taken me from like my first blood, so when I had cancer and my systems weren't repairing, I thought I'd really gone back there, maybe beyond that. And then the September ones, I thought, no, I feel good. Everything seems to be flowing again. It should be, you know, there should be a big difference. And so when I showed Mark, actually there wasn't a big difference at all. My body was responding. It was being resilient to the emotions, and it hadn't dropped off the way that I thought it might have done. And so he said to me, if I didn't know you, you know, this is the blood of a healthy person. I said, oh my God, that was amazing. I'd done all this releasing work with all the transformative coaching. So I'd been laying there with anything that came up, anything that didn't come up. So I knew that there would be feelings somewhere in my subconscious that I'm not good enough, I can't do this. And so I was going in and I was doing meditations and I was allowing anything like that to just come up, to just be released. And I would spend an hour, hour and a half a day just being in that place. And I had some really amazing experiences in that place. It was almost, you know, like the light of, I don't know, the universe. It felt like it was shining on me. I was so kind of at one, and it was really beautiful. And so then I had my PET scan, and like every scan, I always put it off, because I hate doing them. Oh my God, they terrify me. They still do. And then the oncologist phoned me and she said, there is no sign of disease. And I was shouting, jumping on the bed, I was shouting. The kids came running in, what's wrong, what's wrong? And it's like, no, it's good. My oncologist was on the end of the phone, and I think she was just gobsmacked, really. And so it was just amazing that not only had I got rid of cancer, but I'd healed my body so much more probably than it's been healed for so many years. It must have taken a long time for it to degrade that much, that it was just so beautiful to see that actually I've managed to put it right. And so to get the results today that they're better than before is just perfect, because I haven't stopped my protocols. I've dropped the occasional supplement, and I'm not so heavy on the food situation, but don't tell Dr. Dana. But generally I do everything that I did. I don't stress myself out about, you know, it's like tick box exercise, meditate, yoga, juicing, souping. You know, I haven't juiced for a couple of weeks now. It doesn't feel right in this freezing cold weather. So I just don't do it, and I don't beat myself up for it. I just think, well, you know, that's okay. So what I wanted was to heal my body and not have the toxic treatments that destroy your body along with destroying cancer. I wanted my kids to see me getting healthier, and they have. And they've heard other people's opinions about what I'm doing, and it's worried them, but they've also seen me getting stronger. And so they've had that belief in what I'm doing because I had that belief in what I'm doing. And it's mindset above everything else. Pills can't cure you if you're not dedicated. And it's 100% dedication as far as I'm concerned. I'm just not going to go any less than that, because it's my life. And I enjoy life, and I love being a mum, and I'm not willing to let that go for anybody. And so if you choose to take your health into your own hands, don't be stubborn, you know, always have that flexibility to take whatever measures you need to take in order to get well. Had I gone through that PET scan in September or October, I would have, and it was worse, I would have possibly gone for the chemo option, because I'm pro-life. I wanted to live. But whilst doing the chemo option, I would have supported my body with everything that I could have done. So when I got my first bloods off Mark, I knew this was not something to mess with. I'm not a doctor, far from it. I know my body, I know what sits well with me, but I'm not a doctor. And so I am willing to listen to someone like Dr. Flavin, who has nearly 40 years experience healing cancer, because I trust her. And I trust that what she's telling me is for the best. But equally, if I see a supplement I think I want to take that, then I will do that. But I won't deviate from what she's given me to take, because she's planned this whole treatment around healing cancer. Mine is just, well, that feels right. You know, it's not a good enough, it's not good enough. My blood didn't heal from things that felt right. So thank you for listening to my story, and may the bloods continue to improve. Thank you. Take care.